Please come forward if you're a witness. Please come forward if you have evidence. Please come forward. I think that was instrumental in what we're seeing now. Ever since, in 24 hours, we've received 12,000 calls, if you can believe that. Now, I don't know if that's going to 12,000 calls? Yes, sir, you said 12,000 calls. You've received 12,000 calls? Now, that doesn't mean 12,000 people who claim to be victimized. It just means 12,000 people have called this line that we published yesterday. Obviously, as you know, there are going to be crank calls, people with foolishness, and people with malcontent. But we are sifting through that and trying to make sure that we identify and vet people with real, legitimate, and credible claims. Right now, we're talking about 120 people from 25 different states for conduct that occurred over 25 years. 25 different states? Is that what you said? Not cities? You said 25 different states? Yeah, because a lot of these parties obviously took place in Los Angeles, New York, Manhattan, the Hamptons, and Miami. A lot of these people were flown in, and this wasn't a secret. It was known that people were being flown in for these parties, paid cash to attend, identified at clubs or concerts, or even on the street, and invited to these parties. You have that group of people involved, and then there's another group, maybe the more sinister situation, where young people, with stars in their eyes, want to break into the entertainment industry. They're given promises of stardom, taken advantage of, allegedly drugged, abused, and left behind with shame and guilt. What I'm looking at, obviously you have an individual who has been indicted and arrested, whose bail has been denied. He's obviously a target of this. But I'm looking at who else was involved. What venues were involved? Who sponsored some of this conduct? Who benefited from this? Who profited from this? Who was there in the room, encouraged this, facilitated this, or didn't say a word about it, keeping it hush-hush? You can only imagine the number of entities and individuals that could potentially be complicit in all this. Mr. Busby, and I'm getting there, I was going right there because you talk about the complicity of others who may have been involved. I want to know if the survivors, the accusers, whatever term is appropriate, have they talked about Diddy Combs? Have they named names, provided names of other, dare I say, co-conspirators in all of this? What can you tell us on that front? We have a long list of names, and obviously this is a very sensitive situation. The worst thing we could do is name someone allegedly involved without our ducks in a row. I'm not going to be involved in ruining someone's reputation by making a mistake. A lot of this is hard to corroborate. You're talking about someone who thinks their dreams are coming true, surrounded by megastars and other stars, and probably the worst thing that could happen to them happens. Yes, there are people who own private homes, private venues, were in the room, and whom I'll allege knew what was going on and either participated, encouraged, or somehow benefited from it. That's going to be different for every case. These are individual cases, at different points in time, with different people involved, and there will be different defendants in each case. Without naming names, and I appreciate you being responsible, may I ask, from a general perspective, are these alleged co-conspirators public figures, well-known people in Hollywood, in the music industry, or people who worked for P. Diddy Combs? Could you be specific in that regard? I would say yes to all of the above. There are people you would know, names you might not, but they are in management or executive positions, people who benefited from this culture, who were there knowing what was going to happen, participated, encouraged it, and just think about it, just one aspect. Typically, when an entertainer of this stature, like Diddy was, rents out a hotel, he would rent out the entire floor. There's a revolving door of people showing up at the front desk, no names taken down, escorted right up to the floor where things happen. It's hard to turn a blind eye. You know what's going on. People from out of town, flown in from Los Angeles. 10 to 15 at a time, paid in cash to attend various events, picked out of a crowd at a show, whisked off to another party, and they wake up the next morning not knowing what happened because they've been drugged, injured, and feel shameful. The common theme throughout this is some sort of drug, some spiked drink that causes these individuals not to be able to fight back as they might have otherwise. They wake up not knowing what happened to them, other than knowing they're injured in their private areas. Many went to seek medical treatment, some were drug-tested, and a few even had horse tranquilizer in their system. Outrageous, isn't it? How did that get into their bloodstream? I think we're just scratching the surface here. These are all allegations, even the indictment. The government must prove these, but we have many people saying similar things. And some people are probably scrubbing social media, deleting text and data from their phones, and probably feeling nervous. They should be. I'm not going to discuss the child involved. But when it comes to survivors, about half are men, half are women, and 25 were minors. Is that true? And when it comes to the adults, what do you say to those who argue that if they were flown in, they were complicit? What does Mr. Tony Busby say to that? Each case stands on its own merit. You could imagine someone being recruited, promised payment, and then taken advantage of, not allowed to leave, forced to do things they didn't expect. For a minor. It doesn't matter. Most of my clients weren't people flown in. They were people identified on the street, in a club or hotel lobby. They were just invited to parties. When do you expect to stop filing these suits? I hope to do it in a week, but realistically, I said 30 days. We'll file individual cases within 30 days and pursue them aggressively. It's a Herculean task with each individual, different defendants, different venues, and different laws. But it's important. And to those who say with 120 cases, you're just searching for additional evidence, not having a lock-solid case yet, why hold a press conference? I could file against Sean Combs now, but I want to capture everyone involved. The press conference was to encourage witnesses to come forward. I want to ensure everyone who facilitated this is involved because that's what needs to happen. You summed it up perfectly. I'm after anyone complicit, public or private, business or industry. It doesn't matter who. There are so many witnesses. There are so many victims. Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at celebrities who spoke out against Sean Diddy Combs before his 2024 arrest and indictment. We're just starting to scratch the surface of who this case is going to touch and involve. Jaguar Wright, and congratulations, young Miami run as fast as Cassie did. Neo-soul singer Jaguar Wright lacks no boldness in the claims she's made against Sean Diddy Combs. Most tamely, she alleges that he's abused and assaulted multiple associates in the music industry. Uptown Records started with 5 people: Andre Harrell, Al B, Sure. But escalating from those potential atrocities, Wright made declarations that the rapper has been involved in nothing less than foul play. Wright has noted that prominent members of Uptown Records, now all deceased, might somehow be connected to Combs and his purported misconduct. Andre Harrell is dead. The only 2 left are Puffy and Al almost died, though the validity of Jaguar Wright's statements has yet to be fully investigated. She will no doubt be a loud voice in the conversation surrounding the Diddy scandal. As of this video's publication, Diddy has yet to officially address Wright's accusations. Mark Curry, a former collaborator best known for the single Bad Boy for Life with Diddy, is not surprising in having some insider knowledge about his alleged misdoings. In December 2023, about a month after Diddy's assault lawsuits began filing in, Curry spoke candidly in an interview about a myriad of the hip-hop mogul's purported crimes. He explained, "They'd be like, we're having a party tonight, but it's not your kind of party. You'd be like, yeah, I ain't going. I don't want to go." He described how, when out clubbing with Diddy, certain bottles of liquor were not to be touched by anyone but the women in their company, as they were presumably filled with narcotics. Hearing these claims come so matter-of-factly from Curry so early on in Diddy's legal troubles brings a frightening new level of credibility to the allegations made against him. Orlando Brown, another actor and rapper who has had his own troubles with the law, has also discussed Diddy on multiple occasions. In a 2022 interview with Cam Capone News, Brown snapped into a strange gibberish rant, seemingly directed at Diddy. In another conversation, Brown was asked if it was possible to succeed in show business without engaging in drugs, to which he replied, "Absolutely, with an exception, bro. The requirement is you gotta say no to Diddy." Kanye West, in retrospect, might have been foreshadowing. In a 2014 episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Khloe recalled attending a Diddy party where everyone was, quote, butt-naked. Kanye, her former brother-in-law, later called Sean Combs a Fed, claiming he had sold people out to spare himself from jail time. West's words, whether or not they were rooted in truth, now feel like a warning. Usher, who spent a year living with Combs at 13 years old, opened up in a 2016 interview with Howard Stern, hinting at something more disturbing beneath the surface. I actually stayed up later than him, although he made it sound like a blast. Usher's comments about seeing things he didn't understand suggest something curious, saying he wouldn't want his own children at Puffy camp like he was. Justin Bieber, Usher's protege, also had a memorable interaction with Combs. Bieber once gave Combs a fake phone number 555555555 in a subtle act that some now see as a cry for help. Jay-Z, a former collaborator who released 3 studio albums through Bad Boy Records, eventually had a falling out with Combs over unpaid royalties. Leading up to Combs' arrest, Mace claimed Combs cheated him out of royalties and had been withholding earnings for decades. In 2024, former bandmate Dawn Richards sued Combs for roughly $5 million in unpaid earnings. Cat Williams has also spoken up, advising people to say no to Diddy's notorious parties and warning about specific dangers. On Shannon Sharpe's Club Shay Shay podcast, Williams hinted at uncomfortable encounters, suggesting he was careful to keep his boundaries. The list goes on, with Aubrey O'Day sharing how working for Combs was strict and sometimes scary, while Wendy Williams has recounted her own troubling experiences. Curtis 50 Cent Jackson has been vocal about Diddy, calling his parties uncomfortable. In a 2006 diss track, he alleged that Combs was involved in the murder of Biggie Smalls. Tupac Shakur, in a 1995 Vibe magazine interview, indicated that he suspected Combs was connected to his own shooting. Keith D., arrested for Tupac's murder in 2023, claimed Combs offered $1 million to carry out the assassination. This ongoing saga highlights many figures who were once close to Combs now stepping forward with new allegations and insights. Whether or not Combs' guilt is confirmed, the scope of the accusations continues to expand.